Today we have Shubhrata Prakash with us, and we are really fortunate to have her on the show because she's going to talk about a very important topic, which is depression, which is affecting so many youngsters, all age groups actually, youngsters and older people. So, Shubhrata is an Indian Revenue Service officer and currently posted as Commissioner of Income Tax in Delhi. She is the author of the book, The D Word, A Survivor's Guide to Depression. And she's a passionate mental health advocate and the founder of Teri Meri Bante, which is a mental health peer support group. And your story, Shubhita, today is going to be really an inspiration for a lot of people. Thank you for agreeing to speak on the channel Health Stories Speak. Welcome, Shubhita.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be here on your show. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about something that I feel so passionately about.
Okay, so I think we can begin with your journey really, because I should share that you had a phase of your life when you probably went through depression. And what were your feeling at that time? What did you realize? Anything you want to share about the time when you were feeling low and you were going through depression?
So, if I look back at my journey, it is kind of difficult to really say where it all started. But the first time I remember feeling very low and feeling weepy, and I was able to not just stop crying continuously, was actually one of the happiest phases of my life. I had just delivered my first baby. And in hindsight, probably it was postpartum depression, but it wasn't diagnosed then. And life went on. I think it kind of I went into remission for some time. I was okay. I was carrying out with the rest of my work, but I never really went back to being okay. And again, in hindsight, probably I went through my entire second pregnancy with depression and anxiety disorder. But of course, I did not know at that point of time. So it actually took me 5 years to get diagnosed because even when I consulted a psychiatrist, I was told that I have anxiety disorder and depression was not really flagged.
Right.
That is the kind of stigma that exists around depression because probably the doctor thought that such a senior officer, if you even suggest that this is depression, they may not like it. I don't know what
Yes.
it was, but somehow I get a feeling that probably that it was. So it was after 5 years of having issues like feeling low, having no energy. There was some kind of disconnection between my brain, my thoughts, and my actions because my brain would tell me to go pick up something that was falling, but my body wouldn't move. And there was very little interest in things that were around me. So a lot of these things were there, which were not getting okay, despite the fact that I was managing the kids, I was managing the house. I had a very tough and challenging job, and I was managing that as well. And when things reached a stage when I started having panic attacks in office, I once had to be hospitalized for panic attack. That we just decided to revisit this whole issue because I knew that something was really wrong with me, and I didn't like being the way I was. I wanted to get better. I wanted to go back to the person that I used to be.
Right.
And my husband and I had a discussion, and he agreed that we really needed to get some help. So that was about 5 years after the onset of all these symptoms, and I was actually formally diagnosed with depression.
And
But
which
my
year? Which
journey is
year?
a long.
Sorry. Which year?
This was in 2011.
Okay.
So and my journey actually is a really long one because there were a lot of ups and downs. And then for anyone who knows about depression, it is actually an episodic disorder. Like
Right.
you have a episode and then it goes into remission and then you're okay for a while, and then you might get it again. And statistically, anyone who has had depressive disorder once is vulnerable, to have subsequent episodes as well. So that is how it was. And between 2012 and 2016, that is the most difficult part of my life. That is when I had a really severe episode of major depressive disorder. And that is the time, I think, really kind of, I just don't know how I made it through. And all I can say is I'm really happy to be alive, and I'm happy to have made it through those almost 4 years of hell, where there were certain days I just even couldn't even get out of bed. It was that
Right.
bad. So after 2016, it has been kind of okay. I have after that extensive round of therapy, and so much of understanding of myself, and so much of time I spent on getting to know and understand my triggers and how to deal with it. Because unfortunately, I am one of those people for whom medication did not work. I was
Right.
on 3.5 years of antidepressant medication, but unfortunately, I just didn't get better at that time.
What do you think were the triggers, and how did it result? Were you, you said you were feeling low and anxiety attacks. So, what would you typically do? Would you meet others at that time, or you wanted to be by yourself? When you and your husband decided to go to the psychiatrist, what was the reaction of the people around you? Was the community very judgmental? Because that's another feeling that you get, that you yourself are struggling, to get back on the feet, and then there are a whole lot of people around you who are judging. And just, you said you had a big panic attack in the office. So what happened? Were you angry at somebody, or did you faint? Or so, just if you can explain a little, uh, what exactly happened.
The first question was, how did I feel when I had severe depression? So, in my case, again, here I'd like to just make this point very clear to people who are watching the show, that depression is not exactly a single kind of thing. It has multiple facets and multiple symptoms. So,
Right.
anyone who has major depressive disorder may exhibit one or more, but may not exhibit all of the symptoms that are there. So the way depression feels and the way it manifests is different for everyone.
Right.
So in my case, it was this feeling of really being pulled down, not having any energy to do anything. I was barely able to get out of bed. And because I also had anxiety disorder with major depressive disorder, so anxiety was a whole different ball game.
Right.
I just would feel anxious. There were days when I just there were things I was really finding very difficult to do, like simple things like just getting out of the house and crossing the road in front of my house.
Right.
So it was something like that. And for someone who's been independent, since the age of 18, I have lived away from home. I've been on my own. So as an adult with a lot of responsibilities of all kinds and not even being able to cross the road, this was inexplicable. I mean, I just it's something that no one can really understand, that why would this person feel like this. So there was no really wish to engage in social exchanges. I went off social media. It was triggering me further because everyone with their perfect lives on Facebook. No, I did not want any of that when my own life was really feeling bad. And I would get crying spells. I would get panic attacks, like when I couldn't breathe. And I also had anger, because what happens is that as people would know that major depressive disorder is of biopsychosocial origin.
Right.
So whenever someone has depression, all the different aspects of their life start playing out. And because of the rumination that goes on in the brain, so mostly all the negative events are just played out in high
I def-
definition. And yeah, and one tends to go on ruminating about everything wrong that has gone on before this. So there was a lot of anger as well, and there was a lot of self-pity. And depression is the psychological aspect of depression. That is, the hallmark of that is three different things, which is hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness. So all these things, all the feelings and all the emotions and all the thoughts would kind of keep sharpening these three things: hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness. So this is how it was. And when I decided to seek help, and when I was diagnosed with depression, oh, believe me, there was no help anywhere. There
Right,
was no support at all. All I got were lectures on, you know, so there's something wrong with you. Of course, there was something wrong in my brain. It
right.
goes without saying. I was just diagnosed with clinical depression. So you are lazy, you don't want to do anything, and what is wrong with you, why have you become like this, you were so dynamic, and look at us, and we face life in a different way, look at you, why are you running away from life, all kinds of things were said to me, which had absolutely nothing to do with
The way you
having
were
major
feeling. Yeah,
depression at
yeah,
all,
yeah.
because it is a mental disorder of biopsychosocial origins, and every person has unique biopsychosocial factors in their life. These factors interact in a unique way. And
Right.
even the best neuroscientists in the world on date are not really able to say how depression happens, why it happens to someone and does not happen to another, even with the same triggers. It's all
Yeah.
very difficult, very complex.
So did
But
you have
somehow,
to, sorry, did you have to have some tests, or it was just a clinical assessment for finding out that you had depression?
unfortunately, for most mental disorders, there are no blood markers or x rays or any kind of test that you can show that, okay, this exists, or any imaging. I mean, there might be a future where, functional MRI might be able to show up things in the brain, but right now there
There
isn't.
isn't.
So, yes, so at present, the diagnosis consists of clinical protocol. The doctor is going to look at the symptoms, self-reported symptoms. Naturally, you're going to go when
Yeah,
you're not feeling good, or someone in your family takes you because they point out that, look, there's
this is
something
what's
wrong.
happening. Yeah,
And yes, and then they do psychological assessment. So both the physical symptoms and the psychological symptoms, because it is biopsychosocial, and there might be a social factor that might be triggering or fueling the major depressive disorder in
right.
someone's life. So all of that is put together and a diagnosis is made.
Right. And what about the treatment? You said the treatment after a proper assessment of this type, they gave you some treatment. They gave you some medicines. So, what is it? Was that a typical medicine that's given in case of depression? And you said it did not work. So, you said, did you take it for 3.5 years?
Yes.
So, what was that period like when it was not working? What did you think?
Medication for depression is of many different kinds. And I would not like to say much about that on the show.
Right.
In fact, I've written it in detail in my book, the whole class of antidepressants which existed on date.
Right.
And there's always this quest to find new kinds of formulations which might help. But the typical antidepressant medication which is available right now is of the kind, they're either, tricyclic antidepressants, there are the SSRIs, then there are the SNRIs, then there are the NDRIs. There are different kinds of medication which help the brain in keeping the major neurotransmitters available for the brain to function rather than getting reabsorbed. So that's the reuptake inhibitors of the different kinds, whether it targets serotonin or norepinephrine or dopamine. So mostly these are the three neurotransmitters that are the usual suspects when it comes to depression. But again, there is no study which can say conclusively that, okay, one of these or all of these or any combination of these are what are responsible for someone getting major depressive disorder.
Right.
So these medication, I also think it's by serendipity that they work, because and then there are the atypical antidepressants as well. The different classes of atypical antidepressants. Plus, there are a class of medication which help with anxiety disorder,
Right.
mostly benzodiazepines. So so doctors, what usually happens is that they try a combination of these drugs to see what is going to work. If
Right.
one line of treatment doesn't work, then they go on to another. So in my case, in 3.5 years, of course, we went through a lot of these permutations and combinations. Unfortunately, nothing was working for me. I still had severe depression, and
So,
also, sorry,
what? Yeah.
also. also, I would like to stress here that the viewers who are watching this show, please do not take any of this medication on your own, and please talk to a doctor. Have your informed consent in place before you start or stop taking any of this medication.
Right. I think that's a very sound advice. But what really helped? I think if we come to, you are a survivor and we would like you to talk a little about your book. But before that, what really helped you? Was it talking to the psychiatrist, or taking hold of your life, or was it the community, or was it the family? What really helped you in this?
It's very difficult for me to say what really helped, but what I know is that my recovery started after I went off my medication. Again, an advice to people watching: please don't do that on your own. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that was the most medically illogical thing I had done, but somehow it worked for me. So after three and a half years of taking medication, one day I decided to go off my medication. It wasn't helping, and I was developing a lot of physical symptoms like my hands and legs. I had developed tremors in my hands and legs, in my whole body. So I took a decision that, look, these medicines are not working for me. I'm not getting better mentally, and here I am physically also now. I'm having these different
Getting
kinds of
affected. Yeah.
symptoms which are I don't know what is going to be the long term effect of this. And for my husband, he was very supportive. He said, you do what you want. If you don't want to go off the medication, go off the medication. I'm there. We'll see whatever happens. So I had about 2.5 to 3 months of severe withdrawal after going off my medication. It was really bad. And to survive that also is a very, very big thing.
Yeah.
And then slowly I started getting better. But the few things that did help was, first of all, we were not in India at that time. We were in Bangkok. My husband was posted there. So I was off work. So there was no work stress.
Right.
Plus, we were away from the whole community. So that also helped, no social pressures, nothing at all. It was,
Yeah.
and then my husband somehow told me that, see, all you have to do is just stay alive and just breathe, and I'll take care of the rest of the things. You don't have to do anything else.
Right.
So that is the space I had. See, from being a fully functional human being, the only thing I needed to do was just breathe and
Yes.
eat. And just, he said, if you're lying on the bed all your life, it's okay. We'll take care of things. You don't worry. And children were still at a manageable age. They were going to school. So that is the kind of space. All I had to do was do nothing but just breathe and eat and just attend to my basic functions like going to the
Right.
washroom, having a
Yeah.
bath, etc. That is all that I had to do.
Right.
So slowly, very slowly. And also I somehow found that after I went off my antidepressant medication, I had more energy.
Right.
So some shift must have happened in my brain,
Right.
because as I started getting more energy, then that is when I started doing the work. Physical psychotherapy also had helped. I had access to psychotherapy, which I had been using. So sessions with my therapist, that also had reached a kind of plateau by then, because she said that you got everything in your head. You don't really need me to, spell out things for you. So I started swimming. I started doing yoga. I
Yeah.
started a bit of meditation. Mindfulness meditation helped. And I started writing. I wrote my book during the same time, just
So
when I
tell
had
me,
gone off my.
so when did you actually start? Right. Let's talk about the book now. When did you start writing the book? From the time that you went to Bangkok, when you pulled off work and things like that, after how long was it that you thought of writing the book?
I thought of writing the book even before that,
Okay.
because there were the two factors which kind of took me up to writing the book. The first was that I've always been a very creative person. Like, I've always been, I was into everything in school and college, like writing and painting and dancing and singing and dramatics and a lot of things that I was really involved in all my life. And somehow, after getting into service, with marriage, with kids, with work, there was no time or space for me to, actively take part in any of this.
Right.
So there was when we were looking at ways of helping me and what could be the we were trying to identify what could help. So one of the things that came up always was that maybe there was a block in my creativity and I need to get my creativity going again.
Right.
And my in fact my therapist also had suggested that you start writing, write formally, write as a form of therapy. And then I started writing a blog. Of course, it had a small readership and it was a general blog. I used to write about everything that came to my mind. But I did want to write a book because somehow blogs, I'm talking about 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years back, were not that legit. Not as legit as a book,
Book.
to be
Yeah.
called a writer or something, an author, you need to author a book. And that would also kind of help with my self-esteem because worthlessness, I just noted that that was one of the hallmarks of depression.
Right.
So I really wanted to write a book. And when I thought about the topic on which I'm going to write, so depression was just top of the mind because by the time I had thought about writing the book, this was in 2014, just a little before I went to Bangkok. I was so sick and tired of people asking me, why are you depressed? I don't know why I'm depressed. It's a
Yeah.
disorder, and even the best neuroscientists in the world are not able to figure out why it happens.
Yeah.
Then go out, talk to people. It's like telling someone who has a broken leg to dance, asking
Right.
someone who has depression to go out for a walk and talk to people. That's for people who have sadness. Maybe if you're feeling sad or generally low, that's okay. You go for a walk, you change your energy, you feel good. Not someone who has severe depression, it's a clinical condition. No, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
So why are you crying? Stop crying. That's like telling someone who has diarrhea to stop going to the toilet
Toileting. Yeah.
because diarrhea brings loose motions and depression brings crying. That's it. People have got their cause effect all wrong.
Right.
And there was so much of stigma. There was so many misconceptions, misperceptions. People think that depression is just lack of motivation. It's sadness. It's none of that. It's a choice. No, it's not a choice. It can happen to anyone. A rich person's problem, first world problem. No, go to any government hospital. You will be shocked to see the kind of poor people who come and seek treatment for mental disorders. So
Right.
there was a lot of this going on, and I wanted to write a book. And by the time I was tired of telling people that I have fever, I have headache, I have depression, and I am not ashamed of it because it's not a choice I've made. It's not my past karma. It is nothing. It is just a disorder that's happened to me, and I'm dealing with it. So this is what I wanted to say, and that is why I decided to write the book, and that's how
So
it came about.
I just want to, for the viewers, I would just want to show the book. Shubhrata's book is called The D Word, A Survivor's Guide to Depression. I think I would like to you, Shubhrata, just to highlight a few things from your book as to which are the main, maybe top 3 points uh, to do for surviving. I think also for the families, because there was, as you were saying, the pressure from the families or friends saying just go out and do your normal things. That can't be done at that stage, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. When you're going through depression, none of those normal things happen. So please, from your book, top 2, 3 points. I know there's a lot of rich information there.
Yeah. So the book is, of course, it's a whole survivor's guide. It's a lot there, from figuring out whether, what are the symptoms of depression to the possible treatments that are there, how to take care of yourself, and how to help a loved one who has depression. So I've written a lot of it from my experience that this is what people. And then, of course, that's the first part of the book. And the second part of the book is about my own journey. So I would definitely, recommend reading my own journey because it shows how a person who, at least in the Indian context, who's a civil servant, who's been an achiever all her life, and so as to say, life is kind of set.
Yeah.
Such a person also can have depression, and it's very difficult. It's as difficult for me as it is for the person on the street or anybody else. And of course, because I had the privilege of accessing help in terms of medical help as well as therapeutic help, not a lot of people have that. So that definitely I would recommend. And otherwise, also please do read about how to take care of someone who has depression, because it's, in fact, we tend to say that so and so went into depression. No, it's not a state or a cafe or a theater one goes into. It's an
Yeah.
illness that happens. So nobody goes into depression. It's not a choice. The terms some so and so went into depression, that also implies a choice, that
Yeah.
this person chose to
To
go
go
into
to.
depression. It's not like that. It's an illness that can happen to anyone. So there's also a lot of myths. There's a whole section I've written on myths and what is the reality. And of course, this book was written in 2016. So from 2016 to 2024, a lot has happened in the mental health space. There's a lot happening still. More research is coming out. More and more people, especially the younger generation. I see my friends' kids or my kids' friends. They are all much more aware, and it is heartening in a way. But that has and more awareness also brings, it has a downside too, that people kind of say that I'm depressed when they're just sad for a day. That's
Right.
not it. Depression is not that.
Yeah.
But still I have tried to address a lot, and I do write extend I mean quite frequently on social media, especially on Twitter, which is X now. I
Right.
write a lot there. So in case you are interested, I would just say that please do follow me there, because I
Yeah.
keep sharing things there.
That's excellent. I mean, all these are very important points. But before I leave you, I want you to say something specific for the family and friends who were. What is it that you want to say to them that recognize depression, give the person the space? So, what are the 2, 3 main points for the? I know it's there in the book, but if you could very briefly, quickly share the top 2, 3 points as to what the how supportive, how should they show their support to the person who's going through it?
So, first of all, family and friends need to accept that this is a disorder that has happened to a person, and the person is not being a drama king or queen.
Yeah.
They have a medical condition. So, do be supportive. And one of the ways in which you can be supportive is just acknowledging and accepting that, okay, this is something. This is not, I mean, if someone has diabetes, everybody gathers around them to help them. Like, how do you
Yeah.
get better?
Yeah.
If someone is diagnosed with a heart condition, again, everyone rallies around them. With mental disorders, that is not so. I found it in my own experience. Like, other than my husband, I had no support from anywhere.
So you feel
My
lonely. You're
husband,
very lonely at that time.
absolutely, it was just my husband and maybe a couple of friends. That's it. Even friends who were very close to me, they stopped taking my calls. They stopped answering whenever I tried to reach out also.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it is going to be intensive. That person needs support. They may need support even to take care of themselves, their own food, clothes, cleanliness, everything. And you need to help them understand that, see, you can see that their limbs are okay, but you don't know what is going on inside the brain. The
Right.
disability that comes from having depression is kind of invisible, because no one can see inside the brain that what neural circuits have gone wrong and what neural circuits are not working in
Yeah.
an ordered way. So you may only see this person not being able to get out of bed. No, you don't know what's happening in their brain. So please
Right.
do help. And the third thing I would definitely like to say is that please do not beat or put any kind of physical violence on people with depression. Even if you do that, it's going to make it worse. And
Yeah.
they may not think that life is worth living if you adopt that kind of approach to this. So do not curse them. Do not beat them up. Do not blame them for something which is absolutely not a choice. It's not in their hands. And these are the ways in which people can support.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again a lot for talking to us today. And I think it's an inspiration.
Thank you.
The
Thank you
way
so
you've
much for
survived and the way you've come back. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you.